Overtalking in the workplace, or when your manager constantly overtalks you whenever you're in a meeting or you have a hallway conversation or a team meeting or a project meeting. Topics we're going to discuss: what is overtalking, the cost of overtalking. Topic number 3, the types of overtalkers that are common in the workplace. Number 4, common occurrences of overtalking, so you can be prepared. Number 5, what exactly does good look like so that we can prevent or reduce the instances of overtalking. And number 6, addressing the issue of overtalking.
What overtalking is not? Well, it has little to do with how much you're saying. It also has nothing to do with the length of the conversation that you are having with the person who is constantly interrupting and overtalking you, attempting to hijack the conversation. Overtalking almost always occurs when there is a desire for the conversation to be one-sided. In fact, that's not a conversation. That's more of a dissertation. Overtalking occurs when the other person feels that you care nothing about their needs or opinions, or more importantly, they care nothing about your needs or opinions. What exactly is the definition of overtalking? Because there seems to be some diversity of opinion as to what that is. Webster describes overtalking as the practice of using one's own talking to prevent others from talking. Notice it doesn't specify the tone of voice, it is the actual activity that occurs. Honestly, overtalking can occur at any time, but some of the common instances in which overtalking does occur is in stand-up meetings. You know what they are. They're those 15-minute meetings where everyone stands and shares what's going on for the day, and someone attempts to hijack and overtalk your section when you are sharing what projects or activities you're focused on and your expected tasks or what you need help on. Instead, they interrupt. A second common occurrence is in one-on-one conversations. And of course, a third one is in meetings. This is when it's most visible, when any time you attempt to add to the conversation or engage, you are shut down, overtalked, ignored. Is there a cost to overtalking? Well, actually there is. One of the key and primary costs to an organization is there's reduced productivity whenever there's meetings. If you don't have collaboration and effective communication between all the parties on a team or within the organization or who are responsible for a given task, whatever the purpose of that meeting occurs, the productivity is significantly reduced. The engagement is significantly reduced, as well as the organization loses the value of the experience and the energy and the input from everyone. It is reduced to only hearing the point of view, suggestions, or input from the person who's doing the overtalking. A second cost of overtalking is increased risk of toxic conflict. And what do we mean by that? Toxic conflict may not occur on the first occurrence of overtalking, but can you imagine with repeated opportunities, repeated occurrences of overtalking? Conflict will spread outside of the meeting or the hallway conversation or the stand-up. It will spread by those who observe or who are the victims, as well as a perception negative perception of possible conflict between the person who's doing the overtalking and the person or persons who are being repeatedly overtalked. A third possible cost of overtalking in the workplace is the effects of intimidation on the employees, those who are the victims and those who are the witnesses, as well as the organizations or managers or HR or team leads who are going to be responsible for dealing with the comments, the effects, the lack of productivity, the challenges, and the issues. The intimidation effects will spread throughout multiple occurrences within the organization. It will not just limit itself to that one meeting. It may be visible in that one meeting, but it will spread. And so there's a significant cost to the organization and the team as well. So who are the types of overtalkers? There's, generally speaking, 4 different types. There's the eager beaver, the person who just wants to share and is already planning what they're going to say while you're still talking. Another type is the expert, the person who wants to be viewed by the team and the organization as the expert, all-knowing, all-wise, and wants to share that information and be perceived as an expert within the organization and the teams. A third type of overtalker is the rambler. They may not even be aware that they're doing it, but once they get started sharing, they take the conversation and love to retain it. They don't want to relinquish it, and their thoughts keep rolling along, and they continue to share until actually you've run out of time and people are exhausted. A fourth type of overtalker is the dominator. This one you can spot just about immediately, because this type of overtalker has a tendency to be consistent. They consistently take over and overtalk the same people, the same types of environments, whether it's a stand-up meeting or a formal meeting, especially if there are people who can witness, who in their perception they want to impress, or that they deem to have more value than the rest of the people in the room. The dominator will want to be seen as the person who's in control. The dominator could also be a rambler. They could also be an expert, but you can usually spot the dominator right away. So we've discussed what overtalking is, the different types of dominators, and when it occurs. What does good look like? How do we prevent it? Can we prevent it? What things can be done? So let's talk about a few of them. One is being fair with the other person's time. If you're the person who is the overtalker, make it a point to be fair. Make it a point to limit the amount of time that you speak. Make it a point to respect the fact that others are speaking and that they have equal time on the agenda. Another tactic is to give and take. Make sure everybody feels included. Maybe you do have valid things to share, valid points and valid viewpoints, but make sure everybody else gets an opportunity to share theirs first. You close it out. Another tip is to get everyone talking, whether they're listening and responding or they're talking and initiating. Both sides will get something out of it when this occurs, and both sides can freely disengage from participating should they wish to. No one should feel forced not to participate or unable to participate. The goal in any conversation is that you should only do a maximum, and I'm stressing maximum, of 60% of the total talking. Ideally, it should be 50-50, but at no time should we go over 60%. Otherwise, if we are, definitely we know we're dominating. So in a 15-minute meeting, what's 60% of that? In an hour-long meeting, what's 60% of that? Those are your thresholds. How do you address the problem with a particular team member who consistently overtalks, especially if you're the project team lead or you're not the direct manager, but it constantly happens and you observe it? Try to approach respectfully and non-judgmentally. Try to explain what occurs and the feelings and what you observe. That maybe you're unable to get a word in edgewise, or there's a feeling of being left out, or that the thoughts and the opinions and the experiences that wish to be shared, that the offender treats them as though they don't matter. Express that you want to be included. The goal is a 1-minute discussion approach for future discussions on how to address the issue of overtalking. Don't belabor it. Be crisp, be on point, address it, gain agreement, and move forward. In summary, we talked about several key items as it relates to overtalking. Specifically, what is overtalking? What's the definition? What does it look like? We also to discuss the cost of overtalking, both to the organization and the individuals as well as the team members. We discussed the different types of overtalkers and the fact that some overtalkers can be more than one type. We also discussed the common occurrences of overtalking. There are certain scenarios within the organization that lend themselves more because of the fact that they have an audience, but it can occur at any point in the workplace. We also discussed what does good look like. How do we get the organization to change or the teams to change from a common scenario of overtalking to improved engagement and sharing and collaboration amongst everyone. And finally, how do we address the issue of overtalking with the actual person or team member who does the overtalking? I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions or you're interested in more, please check out hobsontraining.com. There are several resources for more information that you can take a look at, including there's an article by Sheryl Sandberg, and it's entitled How Not to Be Man-Interrupted in Meetings. Another article entitled How Should I Handle Being Talked Over by My Boss? As well as Who is Overtalking? And finally, there's an article entitled How Should I Handle Being Overtalked by My Boss? These and other resources are available to you. We have a list of them in the back of the presentation, and we hope that these will be helpful to you in preparing for those conversations and participating in those meetings and those stand-ups.